Welcome back, folks. And today we got a box. That's right, a box. Any guesses? Take a guess. What do you think it is? It's a graphics card. That's right. I bought a graphics card on eBay for, I think it was about $70 with tax and shipping. This is a pretty good graphics card, and even as old as it is, still holds up very well. And if this thing works, and I'll tell you more about that and why it was cheap, this is a great deal, great bang for the buck. So in this video, we're going to go over testing it, maybe bringing it back to life. And if it works right out of the box, then we'll probably have to go a different direction with this video. So let's get started. So one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how do you get these good deals? What do you recommend? I do most of my stuff on the Facebook marketplace, but I do tend to go to the eBay because of the buyer protection. That's kind of nice, you know. They hose you. eBay does a pretty decent job of getting your money back. So I like to lean that way, but most of my time, Facebook marketplace. But in the case of this one, it was sold as untested, potentially for parts are not working. And yeah, that's a gamble, because when it says that, you have a chance that it doesn't work at all. You pretty much got a paperweight and you can't return it because that's the risk you got. But for $60, $70 with shipping, I figured I'd take the risk, and maybe we're able to bring it back to life. Maybe it works right out of the box. We'll see. What intrigued me was that it said it's untested, but that could also be code name for I don't know what I'm doing and I haven't tested it, or I don't have a computer for it, or I just found this somewhere. But they were a little vague on the listing. Now, the ones that do work, you typically have to pay a premium for it. Now, this graphics card sells for a decent price, especially this edition of it. And for $60, if it works, then we got a really good deal. And yeah, I'm just hoping for the best, folks. I'm trying to be positive. Can I be positive? Okay, so let's open it up. This thing was packaged pretty decent, I would say. Got all this styrofoam thing. Now, when I ship things, you know what I use? Here's a secret: Walmart shopping bags. In my area, I know, like upstate, like in New York, they don't do the whole shopping bag thing, the whole recycle. Hey, that's awesome. But down here, we still have Walmart shopping bags. I keep them like crazy, and that's what I use for packing. Works great. Highly recommend. And here we are. Oh, she's pretty. She's so nice. Any guesses? Can you see it? Oh, it's even got the whole packing tape thing. And here we are. The EVGA 1080 Ti FTW3 for the Win 3. And I paid $60 for it, so not bad. Well, $7 with shipping. I gotta add that part. And the whole tax, you know, pay Uncle Sam. And so far, it looks to be okay. I mean, I don't see any physical damages. We gotta give it the smell test. It's got a waft. It's not roaches. It's not smokers. It's not the vape juice. It's just, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that smell. Any ideas? So let's take a look at it and see anything obvious that would suggest why this thing was sold so cheap, besides the fact that it doesn't work. The tamper screw is still there, so it doesn't look like they've opened it up. I can't remember if EVGA put them on these, so maybe I'm wrong. The screw that has the serial number and the part number is not there, so maybe this is stolen. Okay, that's fine. Definitely not fine. But if you look, you see the E over here? Oh, we got some fan issues. And this one looks like it rubbed up against something. I don't know what happened over here. That's violet. Maybe overheated. As you can see, we got something going on right over there. And that's keeping our fan from moving. Maybe that's why it was just DX, it was just overheating. I mean, that'd be awesome if it's just as simple as bad fans overheating. We could just get some type of cooler on it. But, Now, typically when I get a graphics card from eBay, if it's listed as working, what I will do is I'll pop it in the computer, and if it works, we're good to go. I'll stress test it, and then I will open it up. The reason for that is that if you return it after you've messed with it and changed it and the seller could prove it, then they could deny the return. That happened to me once. Learned my lesson. Won't do that again. But in this case, there's no return, and it's for parts or not working, untested, so we could go that route. So let me think for a sec. So I got to thinking, and I think I'm just gonna pop it in the computer and turn it on. But before I do that, we got to fix this. That's actually a stand to hold up this, so maybe this card just got and that's why this fan wasn't working. I don't smell anything that suggests it was burned or shorted, so that's a good thing. The pads, as you can see, look to be okay. The BIOS switch is on the OC mode, so that's actually a good thing. Now, for used graphics cards, I like to have the dual BIOS, primarily because it's mostly an easy repair. I've actually had graphics cards where the regular BIOS was fried and the secondary one was perfectly fine, and with a flick of a switch I had a good working graphics card. So that could be something to consider, and that's a suggestion I do recommend if you're going to buy one of those older graphics cards. Try to get one that has dual BIOS. So let's see if we could just grab this, and this might be way too big. I think that worked. Yep, and that's good enough for now, just to test it. It's not touching anything. This fan is spinning freely. So we're good with that. So let's set up the test bench. So now, if you're gonna do this, flip graphics cards, flip PCs, you got to have a test bench, folks. I mean, you don't want to be messing up your main rig or have one that's set up in the living room somewhere or wherever you have it, and you're having to just kind of go back and forth and take out, apart your working computer. I've actually had issues, and this was years ago before I ever set up a test bench, and it's actually the reason why I set up a test bench. I bought a graphics card, popped it in, and something was seriously wrong, and it fried my main rig. It was rather unfortunate, but you learn. Test bench is a must. Now, don't get me wrong, this test bench does have value, but if this goes down, I could get on the Facebook Marketplace, buy something cheap and rebuild it. This is an i7. I think it's the 9700 with 16 gigs DDR4. This is just a GT 1030 that I got in a used part hustle that was infested with roaches. So you definitely check out that video. But this worked. This didn't have roaches. And it doesn't smell either. Now, this is our Be Quiet power supply, 1200 watts. They sent this to the channel. That was flipping awesome. Now, I do want to check these contacts to see. What I might do is just rub this with some rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, just to give me a head start. Now, dirty contacts, that is a thing. I've had graphics cards that would not work, and the minute you just go ahead and clean this, they come right back to life. So if you're trying to test a graphics card and get it good enough where if it doesn't like really work and you have to do the whole eBay return thing, they can't gig you for doing this because there's no evidence of this. The whole point is that I just want to do the least amount just to show I didn't tamper with it. I mean, as you can see, this thing's already pretty gross. Now, I have no history of this graphics card. For all I know, it could be a mining card, which that's fine. People ask, should I buy a mining card? Absolutely. If it's cheap enough, snag one up, folks. I mean, those things they're good to have. And I'm thinking this might be a mining card because look at how nasty and grimy it is. I don't see like no rust. So mining graphics cards that'll be in a humid environment usually get some corrosion over here, but I'm not seeing that. And I'm real glad I'm doing this because I don't want this crap on my stuff. All right, 4 Q-tips later, good enough for the girl's eye date, so let's pop it in. It was a little weird popping in. Just take it out and make sure that there's not a bent pin or something. Okay, that's good. Now, I've seen that too. Another thing to keep in mind, if it doesn't go in, don't force it. Giggity. And here's why. I've only seen it once, but I've actually seen where one of these pins got bent to the side, and then it just actually went to the side of the connector. I thought the card was faulty. I was getting ready to just pretty much take my loss on it. And then when I took a second look, one of those pins was just bent over, and they're tough pins. So if it doesn't go in, take another look, make sure you're not bending those pins. All right, here goes nothing. Fire in the hole. Whoa, we got a display. I'll be honest, I wasn't even expecting that much. We're still not out of the woods yet. But that's a good start. Now, my concern is I only have one fan spinning. Could just be that it needs new drivers, BIOS update. Not sure, but we'll get there. Now, although we got a screen over here, there's nothing to get too excited for yet. Because what could be, and I'm hoping not, is that once we load the drivers, this thing could still crash. I've seen that happen. You install the drivers and the thing is junk. Or when we go to test it with like Heaven Benchmark, it starts artifacting. All right, so we're booted into Windows and it installed the default Windows driver. Let's see. Let's go to Device Manager. Actually, let's go to Tech Power Up GPU Z. So we have our NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti. It's picking it up. And this is a good sign. So if you look over here at the GPU clocks and the memory clocks, you see that we actually have our speeds. If there was a problem, which I'm trying not to put the horse before the chickens before the cart, you know what I mean. But if there was an issue, this would read all zeros. But considering that it's reading, we're off to a good start. So promising for sure. So let's get the newest drivers and let's run a benchmark. After a little bit of tinkering, we got updates. Some good ones and some interesting ones. Fired everything up, once installed the latest and greatest drivers, and this thing was crashing and just boinking on me. Not working good. These two fans didn't want to kick on at all. It wouldn't even pick up the card. It wouldn't do anything. It was kind of weird and interesting. I did the whole DDU display driver uninstaller, which is another good software to kind of get rid of all the old drivers, because, well, on my test rig, I put AMD cards and Quadro cards and video cards. I mean, all different types of cards on here. So I did that, did a fresh install, was still doing the same thing. Remember I told you earlier in the video, folks, if you can, buy a card that has dual BIOS. And here's why. So this was on the OC BIOS. And I flicked it over to the normal BIOS, came back to life. Installed the latest and greatest drivers, and I've been running Heaven Benchmark for over 30 minutes, and this thing is running solid. I mean, I haven't even messed with the thermals. I mean, well, the thermal paste or anything on it, but our temperatures are 72 degrees Celsius. This thing is running fantastic. It's quiet. The LEDs came back to life. All the fans came back to life. So our OC BIOS is probably junk, which we could go in and reflash a new BIOS. Typically, that's all it needs. Probably those BIOS got corrupted for whatever reason, or maybe they're just worn out. But either way, if we wanted to, we could tinker with that, and maybe I'll worry about that. But the normal BIOS are working fantastic. This card is running great. So for the Win 3, awesome. We're winning on this. So I think what we're going to go ahead and do now is take it apart, clean it up, and then run some games. So I'm pretty stoked the fact that this thing works, and it was just as simple as switching the BIOS over. Now we can go back and reflash the OC BIOS, which maybe I'll do that another time. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. But it's awesome. Dual BIOS, I can't recommend it enough. And a lot of times when I go use graphics card shopping, especially for older high-end ones, that is something I look for. And the logic behind it is that most people don't know what that switch is, and the BIOS has never been used. And in this case, more than likely, they bought the graphics card and they say, man, I want to get the most extra performance. And they probably ran this card in OC mode for the whole life of its card. So normal BIOS, it's pretty much just sitting there chilling. But anyways, let's open this up. I'll tell you this right now, this thing is hot. I've been running this thing for 45 minutes on Heaven Benchmark, so she's toasty, but well stress tested. good to go. Now I didn't watch a video on this, so I'm just going to take everything off. Kind of cool plate. Alright, we got some thermal pads over here. These look plushy and pretty good, so we're not going to mess with those. I'm going to try to peel this one up without destroying it. Come on. There we go. I'm going to pop it right back over here. Now, let's take another look. Make sure we didn't miss anything. So, I think we got a couple over here, over there, so let's keep taking more screws out. So we got one over here which you can't get to, one over there which you can't get to, and those. So it looks like we're going to take the shroud out. Those appear to be the Torx action. I'm sure there's a way to take this out, but maybe I could get it just angling this. Yep. Because this is probably blocking the rest of those screws, but this works. Not the worst graphics card I've taken apart, but definitely not the easiest. As you can see, the pads look good. It is a little dirty, crusty. We could just rub this with some alcohol. And our thermal paste, it's not terrible. But let's just get that out. We'll put some good stuff in there. Same thing with our heat sink. I mean, it's dried up. And I don't think this thing has ever been opened up, just based upon what I'm seeing. But we might be able to get a degree or two. Now let's just run the dry Q-tip through it just to kind of pick up any grime. I don't want it circulating all over the place. And we can dive deeper and take off this shield and everything, but I really don't think it's worth it for as well as this thing is running. Pretty dirty. But not the worst I've seen, I will say that. So our card's looking a lot better. Let's take a look at this. This is actually not that bad. And I think minus 1 or 2 pins that just got pushed to the side, which is not a big deal. It's more my OCD than anything. Just bend that back a little bit. Brand new. And then this guy, I think we could just bend him back where he was. A lot better. I can live with that. Let's use the brush and break up this dust, which is real. This thing is not dusty, it's just grimy. This is the part where you got to be extra careful because these fan blades will snap in a heartbeat. So one by one. Let's just wipe all this with the alcohol. Just make sure we got no other grime on it. And it's not vape grime. What I'm starting to think is, I think this was a mining card. and it was one of those that was just sold off or discovered. And maybe that's actually what's wrong with that other BIOS. Maybe it has a mining BIOS on it. Not sure, but I think this was a mining card. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Alright, put back together, and man, she looks good. Clean. Isopropyl alcohol definitely gets rid of the whatever smell. It didn't have a funk. It just had a, I don't know, an odor I've never smelled before. So, but I guess that's good because I don't want the common odors I've had lately. But anyways, let's pop her back in and pray that she still works. All right, here we go. Fire in the hole. I really got to change this CMOS battery. Saved me a lot of time and headache. But I just kind of been lazy. Put back together, up and running, and always a great feeling when it works after you take it apart. Running the Heaven benchmark for 30 minutes. Temperatures 71 degrees Celsius. It maxed out before at 75, so we got a 4-degree improvement. So that is awesome. So now let's see what it does for games. So we got a Star Wars game, 1080p, all high settings, and seems to be running decent. Now take these results with a grain of salt. I'm having issues with my test bench. Not sure what exactly is going on with it. No matter what graphics card I try, some games are crashing, some games won't even load, and I think the issue is probably with the fact that I've run so many different graphics cards on this. I might have to just do a fresh wipe on it. But for the most part, this is playing pretty solid. I mean, we're probably averaging 70 frames per second, and I'm sure if I do a fresh wipe of Windows 11, I have done the DDU, but still, like, The Last of Us won't even load on any graphics card that I put in this rig, which is kind of weird. But this one runs pretty good. Very happy with it. And for $60, this is pretty awesome. And like I said, I'm sure once I redo this, we'd get higher results. The Cyberpunk, 1080p, all high settings. I mean, we're showing 120. I think we had 80 in a scene below. So I'm thinking probably averaging about 80 frames per second. But smooth, no glitches, no hiccups. The card, once again, performing great. Our temperature is 68 degrees Celsius. GPU pegs up to 100%. I mean, it is a 7-year-old graphics card, but considering, still running fantastic. So let's see what our averages is. And we are at 99.85 frames per second, averaging 100, running the latest graphics driver. Great temperature, so very happy with it. Let's wrap this up. So for a little history, the 1080 Ti released back in March of 2017, retailed for about $700. Fantastic graphics card, 11 gigs of video memory, and I remember when this thing came out, I actually bought it. And let me tell you a story of why I owned it for 2 days, and well, it became a paperweight. So when this came out, I was running a 970 with 4 gigs of memory. Rise of the Tomb Raider had already been out. I played that game, loved it. And when this came out, I was excited for the whole full 1080p experience, 1440p, which I was able to play that game at 1440p. I had it for a couple of days, and I decided to kind of do the right thing and let's change the thermal paste, see if I could get slightly better temperatures, maybe more performance. It was a bad idea. So it was my turn to watch the little human that I claim on my taxes. She was probably a couple of months old. I was in the living room and she started making choking noises. I had just taken the graphics card right out of the computer, popped it at the edge of the desk just like so, and I panicked, didn't pay attention, went to check on her. She was absolutely fine, thank God for that, and the graphics card fell to the ground. The little human cried, and so did I, as the graphics card was damaged to the point where, I mean, I couldn't even do an RMA. The frame was bent, the board was cracked, and it was pretty much useless. And I paid almost $900 for the graphics card, because yes, it was $700 for the Founders Edition, but the more nicer editions, like this one, I think I had a Strix or the EVGA, the premium that you paid for it was closer to $900 with taxes. It was unfortunate, and I was back to the 970. But the 3 days that I did own it, I loved the graphics card. It performed phenomenal. It was unfortunate. I was able to sell it for parts for $200, so it wasn't a complete loss. Well, it was a loss. It was only $200. And I eventually worked some extra overtime, saved up, and I was able to get a 1080 Strix edition, not the Ti, but it worked. It got the job done, and I was happy with that for years. But I always missed the fact that I lost out on the graphics card. Unfortunate. But with all that being said, the 1080 Ti for the Win 3, still a great card. I'm into it. $70, probably an hour's worth of work just cleaning it up. Fresh thermal paste, which we saw we got some slight improvement on it. And looking on the eBay, they're going for about $150 to $200, so I could double my profit. But my plans for this is actually to keep it, as I try to keep something somewhat higher end in the garage that I could use for testing. And this checks the boxes. I'll probably take, I usually have a 1080 that I use around. I'll probably take that, put it in the build, and just flip that one. But the 1080 Ti is going to be held in the garage for a while until, well, who knows? 2080 Ti? Probably. I don't know. We'll see. And with all that being said, buying used is a gamble, especially on eBay. This was listed as parts for not working, but the thing that interested me was that it was untested. So I was willing to gamble with that because it probably did work and they just didn't know. In this case, I think they fired it up real quick, realized, oh, there's an issue, we're not going to mess with it. They probably thought the fan was broken and they just said, you know what, let me ship it parts as is working. The issue with that is that you can't return it because you're buying it as is. Fortunately for me, I won. So comment down below, let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticism. Was this a great deal? What tips do you recommend for testing a used graphics cards? And do you take the gamble when you see something like that on eBay where it says for parts not working, or even better yet, untested? If you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.